Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Jyoti Chahal. So today we'll talk about ecology and evolution. So first of all, starting with the basic concepts of ecology and knowing the term ecology. Ecology comprises of two words, Greek words, oikos and logos. Oikos means to house or a place to live and logos means study. So literally the term ecology, it means study of organisms in their home or environment. The term ecology was first used by Rater in 1868. Now, any organism, whether it is a microorganism or a plant or an animal, it doesn't live by itself alone. It must exist in some habitat with other organisms of its kind, or also can be of different kind, along with other species like plants and microorganisms for its survival. So so that it can eat up other organisms or their parts or product, or can be eaten by others, or compete with others for necessities of life such as space, food, protection, mate. So for continuity of life, it must make adjustments to its physical environment. That's why Ernst Haeckel in 1869 defined ecology as the total relationships of the organisms with their living and non-living environment. As per Odum in 1971, ecology is structure and function of nature. Basically, ecology implies two things, organism and environment, or literally you can say organisms in their environment, and interaction of organisms with their environment and how environment influence the organisms. So these interactions, they fall under ecology, and the study of such kind of interactions is termed as ecology. Ecology can also be termed as bionomics, which is a combination of bio, that means life, plus economics. That means economics is benefit or harm, you can say positive or negative effects on bio means life because of environment. So bionomics. And environmental biology, that is the other term used for ecology. Again, environmental biology, how environment will influence the bio, that means life, whether it is plants, microbes or animals, and how vice versa, how these animals affect their environment. So the study of these mutual relationships is termed as ecology. So moving forward, ecology, it can be studied under two main headings, or you can say two main branches. One is autoecology and other is synecology. Auto means self. When you talk about autoecology, it means the study of life history and population dynamics or behavior or home range or adaptations, anything related to a single species. Auto means self. So when you study a single species and its all aspects, it is termed as autoecology. Synecology, syn means with. That means when you study a species with its environment, how it deals with other species, whether that are plant or organism or plant or animals or microbes. So that kind of study is termed as synecology. That means study of relationships of biotic communities with their known living environment. Basically, all the species in a particular habitat will be involved in synecology study. So a synecologist may study a tropical forest or a desert or a lake, and he describes the overall energy and material flow in a defined area. So that is the difference between autoecology and synecology. So moving on, we'll talk about the history of ecology. Now, Aristotle in 4th century before Christ, he described the habitats of animals and environmental conditions of certain regions. Then Theophrastus, again 4th century before Christ, he was the first ecologist to describe the interrelationships between plants and their physical environment. Then Anton van Leeuwenhoek in 17th century, he studied the food chains and population regulation. Comte de Buffon in 1756, he coined the term environmental induction. And what does he mean by this term environmental induction? He coined this term for the adaptations by plants and animals to their surrounding environment. For that he used, basically for adaptation, he used the term induction. Then Thomas R. Malthus He told that the food supply increases arithmetically, that means 1, then 2, then 3, then 4 and 5, while organisms multiplied in geometric fashion, like 1, then 2, then 4, then 8, then 16, so that is geometric fashion. And Charles Darwin and Wallace, they collectively told individually, basically, theory of natural selection or survival of fittest in the same year, 1859. Liebig, he proposed about the carbon and nitrogen cycle in nature. Schroeter and Schrimper gave the terms autoecology and synecology, which we have discussed recently now. F.E. Clements, he established plant succession. Theman, concept of trophic level. Charles Elton, he gave the concept of ecological pyramids and animal ecology. G.F. Gause, predator-prey interaction. A.G. Tansley has coined the term ecosystem. That is very much important term for the examination point of view. Howard established behavioral ecology, and Odum defined the energy flow and energy budget. So moving forward, we'll talk about environment. Now, what is environment? Any organism is surrounded by some physical and biological factors which affect the life of organism in their natural habitats. So that all things fall under environment. Basically, it comprises of two components. One is biotic components, biotic factors, and other is abiotic factors, as you can see here. Now, abiotic factors are also termed as non-living or physiochemical factors, in which there are physical things and chemical things. And biotic factors are the living factors, or you can say biological factors, in which all the living organisms will fall. In physicochemical factors, there will be abiotic factors like soil, water, rain, wind, oxygen, and things like that. So basically, environment can be microenvironment or macroenvironment, as it can be clear from this. It will be clear from this picture. Here's a goat. Now the immediate environment surrounding this goat will be its microenvironment. Okay, now as the goat will move, its microenvironment will change. If the goat is in a grassland, its microenvironment will be the immediate surrounding in the grassland. If it will move to the forest, its microenvironment will change, and the immediate surrounding in the forest will be its microenvironment. Okay. Now, what is macroenvironment? Macroenvironment is the larger area, and it is sum total of all the factors which are existing external to the organism, and its microenvironment will also fall under the macroenvironment. In the macroenvironment, there will be other organisms, like it can be plants, it can be microbes, it can be other animals, like there can be a tiger or a lion which can affect the life of this goat. Or there can be abiotic factors like sunshine, like rain, like moon at the time of night, or it can be wind velocity, it can be oxygen content, it can be anything. So that will constitute the macro environment of that particular goat. In the microenvironment, there will be generally the abiotic factors and the some organisms like plants in the surrounding environment, immediate surrounding of the goat, and it is not necessary that there should be some large animal in the microenvironment. There can be microbes. So that is the difference in microenvironment and macroenvironment. Now the physical factors, as I have told you, that physical factors, they comprise the light, temperature, substratum, wind, pressure, shelters, and background, and rainfall, and water currents, and humidity level, and pH level. These are all physical factors. If we talk about the chemical factors, pH level will fall under the chemical factors, and water and gases and salts. So, and the biotic factors, all microbes and plants and animals. So moving to the now ecological hierarchy. Ecological hierarchy consists of 6 levels of increasing complexity, starting from the basic unit organisms. Here you can see organism is an individual entity which is living, and organism, it will lead to next level, that is population, when a similar kind of organism or of a particular habitat will come together, that will form a population. And the next level is species, which is different populations of the same organism, same kind of organism, which are capable of interbreeding among themselves. The next level is biotic community, in which different species will be included at a same habitat. So that will form the biotic community. As the name suggests, biotic community means only living organisms will fall under this community. There will be no abiotic factor. Okay, the next is ecosystem. When biotic community is combined with abiotic factors of that particular habitat, that will form the ecosystem. And the highest level of this hierarchy is biosphere, in which the whole earth will fall under this category, biosphere. So all the biotic and abiotic factors which are present on earth, they will form biosphere. So we'll talk about these in detail. So next is organism. Okay, now there are certain characteristics of organism. It can be minute or large. As you can see, there are certain smaller microscopic organisms which are minute, and large organisms such as lion, tiger, elephant. So these are very much large. So it can be minute or large. It can be unicellular or multicellular, as there are certain organisms which are unicellular, specifically protozoans and some algae and some fungus and some like amoeba and paramecium. These are unicellular organisms. And multicellular, all the higher evolved organisms like birds and chordates, and these are all multicellular organisms. Now an organism is growing and self-regulating. It will be in adjustment with the environment. That means it will make adaptations with the environment. It cannot survive in strict isolation. Any organism cannot survive alone. It is distinct. That means you can identify an organism by only looking at it, but it is not always true. Like a lion, you can tell that it is an organism. A rose flower, you can tell it is an organism. A buffalo, you can tell it is an organism. But in case of marigold, you can mistaken this as a single individual or organism, but that is a combination of several individuals. It is a compound flower, and every petal is an organism. So this is distinct is not always true. And like there are certain species of sponges which are so united together that you cannot tell if these are same organism or multiple organisms. So, and every organism has a fixed lifespan, and it is influenced by a fluctuating environment. Next we'll talk about population. Now population also have some characteristics like birth rate and death rate. There will be no birth or death, because that is population. That means a group of individuals which will inhabit the same area, same geographical area. They will be present in the same area, same locality at a particular time, given phase of time. And so these organisms collectively, they will be having a birth rate and a death rate. And you can see here, you can see the example, like in this picture, you can see a frog in the pond. Now, all the frogs in a particular pond will form a frog population. Okay, Rana tigrina population. And the other population in the pond will be this lily, water lily, lotus flower. That will constitute the other population. So there are two populations in the same pond. The third population can be of this water hyacinth, which is termed as Eichhornia. Okay, the scientific name is Eichhornia for water hyacinth. Which is in local language termed as Nagfani, you must have heard. So that can comprise a third population in the same pond. Okay, so three populations can be present in the same pond, like frog and water lily and water hyacinth. So these are population which are having similar individual which are present in the same habitat, at the same habitat in a given period of time. Similarly, human beings of a particular area, like in Sonipat area, you can say all the human beings which are present in Sonipat area, they will constitute the population of Sonipat. Similarly, there will be population of Rohtak, there will be population of Nagpur outside the state, and like this. So there is a term local population. Different populations of same organism are termed as local population. Like if we talk about the human population of Haryana, then Rohtak and Sonipat, these are two different populations, and these will be termed as local populations because they will fall under a greater area, a bigger area, that is Haryana. So different population of the same organism in adjacent habitats will be termed as local population. Like in your college campus, there can be population of rats, which will be termed as population of rats in Hindu Girls College, and there can be population of Rana tigrina frogs, that will be a population of Hindu Girls College. There will be palm trees in the college, which will form the population of palm trees in Hindu Girls College. So there can be different population in a particular habitat. So next is species. Now that is the next hierarchical level. Now all the population of same kind of organisms will constitute a species, and a group of organisms which are similar in structure, basic function and behavior, and they are capable of breeding among themselves. So that is termed as species. Now you can see Rana tigrina. Now all the population of Rana tigrina on earth, that will be termed as a single species. And now these Rana tigrina species members are capable of interbreeding among themselves. Similarly, water hyacinth Eichhornia, that will constitute one species. All the population, whether that is present in Pakistan, if it is present in Bangladesh or in India or in Myanmar or anywhere, but if the individuals are same in structure and function and they are capable of breeding among themselves, that will be termed as a species. Similarly, lotus flowers, wherever white lily is present anywhere in the world, that will constitute a single species. And same with the human being, whether that human being is residing in US or in India or in China or in Japan, anywhere, they will constitute a single species. Okay, so there are certain problems in defining a species, and that problems are like various life stages during the life cycle. Here you can see in the case of this butterfly, there are different stages: egg, larva, and then pupa, and then adult. Now all have different morphology, all are different externally in their external features, so anyone can mistaken them as different species. So that is the problem in defining a species, that you have to study the life cycle of an organism so that you can see the adult and observe the behavior of adult, so that you can define that in one particular category, and all such organism will fall under that category. So you have to study the life cycle, because without studying that, you cannot assign any organism to any species category particularly. The second problem is sexual dimorphism. Here you can see in the case of peacock and peahen, these are externally have very much differences, and anyone can mistaken them as different species. So it is must to study both the sexes before assigning them to any taxon or any species. So similarly in the case of lion and lioness, they are also externally different because of the mane. Similarly in the case of date palm, you can see male date palm and female date palm. They exhibit sexual dimorphism, but they belong to the same species. And then third category which poses some problem is polymorphism. Here you can see honeybee is a very much common example for polymorphism, and you can see that drone, queen and worker, these are very much different in their external features, morphology and their behavior. So anyone mistaken them for different species. Similarly for the case of termites, and similarly for the case of certain other organisms there are certain organisms which exist in colonial form. So that is polymorphism is very much common there, like Physalia and like termites and like volvox. So so that should also be studied before assigning any organism to a particular species. Similarly, there are certain races of any species. If you talk about human particularly, so there are certain tribes and races which are externally morphologically different from other beings of the same species. So we must also study races before assigning the taxon species to any organism. Like you can see different races people like Mongoloid or Negroid or Caucasiaid or Australoid, they have different skin colors and their shape of nose and lips and eyes and the texture of their hair, that is very much different. So these are some of the common problems which we faced when we assign species to any organism. So in the light of above discussion, a species may be defined as a group of individuals which possess essential structural, functional and behavioral similarity, visibly differ from other kind of organisms, that means other species, and in nature they breed only with one another, producing fertile young one. That means the offspring should be fertile only then the organisms will be termed in the same species, and members of the species must be reproductively isolated from other species. So these are some of the common characteristics a species should possess. Is a biotic community. Now, what is biotic community? The organisms of all the population that live in a defined area or habitat is termed as biotic community. Okay. So that living things, living organisms can be animals or plants or microbial. So basically three communities, three organisms fall under biotic community. As the name suggests, biotic community means only the living organisms will be fall under this community. There will be no abiotic component. So in any particular habitat, we will count all the living organisms, and that will form the biotic community, and that will be having three factors: animal community, plant community, and microbial community. Microbial community, in which there will be microorganisms; plant, which will include only plants of that particular area; animals, in which there will be only animals of that particular area. So basically, like if we talk about biotic community of Hindu Girls College, okay, so all the living organisms which are present in Hindu Girls College will comprise the biotic community of Hindu Girls College. Like all the plants which are present in college, all the living other members or animals like teachers and students, but they will form an exchanging part of the biotic community because they do not reside there. They come for a limited time period and go back to other environments. So that will form their micro environment, a kind of, and they will change their micro environment, or you can say that they will change their biotic community from one community to other, from Hindu Girls College to their respective homes. So that is a different concept. So that will all comprise the biotic community, whether that are plants of Hindu Girls College, or frog population, or rat population, or birds population, different bird species, whether that is crow or manna or parrot or a pigeon. So they will all constitute a biotic community of Hindu Girls College. So that is biotic community. Basically it is organisms of all population inhabiting any specific area and interact among themselves, that are called a biotic community. So that can be a forest. Now in forest, only living organisms you should count in biotic community, not the biotic factors. And also the organisms, the bios, the life which is present in a lake. So that will also form a biotic community. So moving forward, next is ecosystem. Now the biotic community which we have discussed earlier, combine this with its surrounding abiotic factors, that will constitute the ecosystem. Okay, a biotic community in its abiotic environment, natural and self-sufficient unit, ecosystem. That will form a natural and self-sufficient unit, ecosystem. Now ecosystem can be of two types, a natural ecosystem and artificial or man-made ecosystem. Man-made ecosystem, which is created by man, and ecosystem is a self-sufficient unit. That means it will be having its own bios and abiotic factors. Okay, so it is independent of other, not always it is independent. I will talk about the exceptions. So artificial or man-made ecosystem, it can be a aquarium in which man has put the fishes and some algae and plants, and like a pot, a flower pot or a fruit pot, and in which a plant is planted in a pot. So that is an artificial ecosystem which is created by man, and it can have its own microorganisms, its own soil, its own oxygen content and surrounding. So that is an ecosystem which is an independent unit. In case of natural ecosystem, it can be a forest, it can be a lake, it can be a pond. Now in all these, it will include biotic factors. That means all the living structures, which whether that are plants in the plants and trees and algae and ferns and mosses in the forest, plus animals, plus microbes, plus abiotic factors, whether that is rainfall, that is oxygen, that is soil, that is air, oxygen content, everything. So that will constitute one ecosystem. So in the forest, that will be termed as forest ecosystem. In the pond, it will be termed as pond ecosystem. In case of lake, it will be termed as lake ecosystem. Now Ecosystem is often regarded as an isolated unit, but actually things shift from one ecosystem to other. Suppose a forest is near a lake ecosystem. Okay, so the leaves from forest can flew away up to the lake and can be a part of lake ecosystem later on. Similarly, birds can migrate from their summer and winter home. Okay, so there can be interchanging things. Okay, like if we talk about the college ecosystem. Okay, so we are a part of college ecosystem till 2:30. After that, we will be part of ecosystem near our houses in our colony. So we are an exchanging member of the ecosystem. So that is not always an independent or isolated unit. Now the highermost level of the hierarchy is biosphere or ecosphere. When all the ecosystem of the earth together placed together, that will form ecosphere or biosphere. That means all living organisms plus all regions of earth plus atmosphere, yani ki abiotic factors, they will form biosphere. As you can see, atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere and all organisms, they will form biosphere. So basically earth is biosphere along with its atmosphere. Okay, next we'll talk about various branches of ecology. There are many branches. First of all, we'll talk about space ecology, that will deal with all the requirements of ecosystem supporting for human life during space flights. Ethology, that is deals with the animal behavior. Habitat ecology deals with the interrelationship of organism with their environment, whether that is terrestrial habitat or whether that is marine habitat or freshwater habitat. So accordingly ecology will be different. Then is human ecology. It deals with the study of man and his environment. Taxonomic ecology, that deals with all the taxons of classification of different specific groups of organism, like insect ecology. Okay, avian ecology, microbial ecology. Ecosystem ecology, that deals with the balancing of ecosystem, analyzing what it consists of and how it is maintained. Deem ecology is basically population ecology, studying populations of different organisms. Applied ecology is very much beneficial to human being because it deals with the application of ecological principles to agriculture, to fishery, to forestry, to pest control, to horticulture and to floriculture. And then is radiation ecology. It deals with effects of radiation on the living organisms and their environment. And the production ecology, it deals with the gross and net productivity of ecosystems. And paleoecology, it deals with the past life that existed in the past. Conservation ecology, for the conservation of natural resources such as land, water and certain endangered organisms. So this was all about the branches of ecology. Then next we'll talk about the significance or importance of ecology. Why we should study ecology? Because knowledge of ecological principles is essential for human survival. Man is totally dependent on other organisms for food, for clothing, for other necessities like mate and anything. So it must coexist with them. So therefore the knowledge of ecological principles is very much necessary, or you can say essential, for human being. Then next is economic benefit to human because of applied ecology, as we have talked earlier recently, that the ecological principles are applied to agriculture, horticulture, forestry, fishery, game management. So that will give a great economic benefit to human. Knowledge of ecology is also necessary for the conservation of natural resources, which are like water, wildlife, forest, or you can say non-renewable resources. Knowledge of ecology is also helpful in restoring environment. If we do not know about the how our activities are affecting environment, we will not be able to restore it or to maintain it in a sustainable way. So that is very much essential for us to know the basic principle of ecology. Knowledge of ecology is helpful in population control, definitely under the population ecology or Deem ecology. And protection of animals and plant species from extinction is also linked with ecology. Okay, so basically conservation ecology, that deals with the animals and plant species which are at the edge of extinction, so we can save them from that. Okay, at the last there are some interesting facts. So in year 1762, the bird named manna, which is the scientific name for that is Echinodes tristis. Yes. So in 1762, the bird manna was exported from India to Mauritius for the biological control of red locust population, which was damaging the crops very badly in Mauritius. So within some year, because of this biological control, the manna that feeds upon this red locust, and it was introduced, it was exported from India to Mauritius in year 1762, and up to 1775 there were no more red locust in the Mauritius, and that was completely controlled. So that is a very good example of biological control, which can only be employed when you know the biological principles, ecological principles. So that is the benefit of studying ecology. So that was all about the basic of ecology. Thank you.